Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Rung for Women. I am Leslie Gill, president of Rung, a new organization based here in St. Louis that empowers women on their pathway to a family-sustaining wage. And I also like to say we are transforming lives and elevating careers. We are thrilled to welcome Secretary Walsh. I was joking with him and saying also Mr. Mayor, former mayor of Boston. So welcome, Secretary Walsh. And a roundtable of outstanding women who are here with us today to talk about what it's like to be a woman in the workforce and really think about how we get more women into equitable pipelines of jobs that pay a family-sustaining wage. So before we get started, I would like to thank the Rung for Women Board of Directors, and there are several board members here today. And I'd like to welcome my co-conspirator and chair of our board and founder of Rung. And that's a really big deal because all of what you see today was this woman's vision, and I am so grateful to have her as my partner in crime. So Allie Hogan, please say a few words.
Never get used to that. Thank you, my friend. And thank you, Secretary Walsh, for choosing our campus to host this important conversation. Thanks, too, to all of our partners, supporters, staff, and members who make Rung for Women a community where women can take their career and their life to the next level. We started this organization because we knew that when you invest in women, you not only change their individual lives, you change the trajectory of their children and families, our community, and our economy. I'm looking forward to this conversation again. Thank you all for coming. And I'm going to go sit down and bring Leslie back up.
All right. So thank you, Allie. Thank you. And welcome again, and thank you all. I am just delighted that we are joined by another really special guest. So first African-American female mayor in the city of St. Louis, and I'm proud to say we went to the same college. Our families are friends, Hampton alum in the room, yay. And so really happy to welcome Mayor Tishaura Jones to the Rung campus and to say a few words this morning.
Thank you, Leslie. It's so good to see you and so good to be back here at Rung. This is a really special place. And again, I'm Mayor Tishaura Jones. I use the she series pronouns and honored to welcome Secretary Marty Walsh, who's a former mayor, to St. Louis today. And so pleased that the president is putting a lot of former mayors in his cabinet because mayors get it, right? Mm-hmm. They see what kind of change happens at the local level. And again, I'm also glad that the Biden-Harris administration is dedicated to getting St. Louis the federal investment in infrastructure and workforce development that our region needs. Secretary, I hope you enjoyed today all of our region has to offer you. And I'm excited today for today's in-depth discussion about economic empowerment for women and gaining a foothold to good-paying jobs and industries. Women in the workforce enter, for the most part, careers that are dominated by men. I am in a career that's dominated by men. As a former entrepreneur myself, I know many of you didn't know that, I can tell you that I wouldn't have started down this path without someone whose example inspired or empowered me to do it. These kinds of networks and programs are important, uplifting women with the knowledge and skills to elevate them into positions where they can not just survive, but thrive. Securing better jobs means more stability for our families and our communities. These kinds of, as I like to say, a leader is only as good as the team that she puts around her. And as women in the workforce, we're all on the same team to support one another. That's why groups like Rung are so important to our community, helping women break into good-paying fields and build networks that sustain careers. With coaching tailored to the needs of each individual member, Rung prepares and launches the next generation of women in the workforce. Rung emphasizes this one phrase, and I love it, and they put it on T-shirts, and it's everywhere. It says, "Empowered women empower St. Louis." And I'm here to tell you that it's the absolute truth. Whether from City Hall or a small business or startup, women leaders and entrepreneurs and workers keep our city growing and moving forward. When the women of Rung succeed, our families and households and neighborhoods succeed as well. Our workforce is a part of our city's infrastructure. I can't wait to dive into this conversation with all of you and Secretary Walsh today. Thank you for having me. God bless.
Now we're going to jump into it, Mr. Secretary, and the topic at hand is what we are all about here at Rung, and that is more women making more money. I say it all the time. And I was actually reading the American Families Plan and saw this amazing statistic that I just have to share. And that is 91% of the income gains experienced by middle-class families over the last 40 years were driven by women earners and women's earnings. So today, I really just want us to start by just answering the question, what are the barriers? And we know that our incomes matter as women, but why are we still stuck? And so I'm going to start to my left with Kim Beck. Actually, I'm sorry, we need to do quick introductions first. So after introductions, if you would answer that question.
So I'm Kimberly Beck. I don't know if you can hear Kimberly Beck, and I'm the Executive Director of Salvation Army Midtown Service and Treatment Center. I'm in social service, which is a career field that women are naturally drawn to, and it is a career field that is underpaid. And so I bring women in and try to mentor them and give them a career path to go to professional positions. But of course, you know, professional positions require education. And so then we're strapped with student loan debt. And those are and so for social service, we end up working multiple jobs. So as a young woman, I'm not gonna tell how old I am, but as a young woman, I literally worked 4 jobs at the same time, but I was a manager in social services. So I still had to, juggle that and 3 kids and a husband and all of that. So those are the kinds of things that are barriers to us. First of all is the positions that we're naturally drawn to are underpaid, like counselors and social workers and nurses. And those positions need to be respected because they so impact our country. As we saw just here in the last year, during the pandemic, we saw the overdose rate for African Americans in St. Louis go up instead of down. So we needed more social service workers and peer support specialists and counselors and social workers, and we need to pay them a living wage. I mean, if you can get paid more at Amazon, how do I keep you? So we need to be paid better, and we need those career paths, particularly for some of the women that I engage with because they have lived experience, which means there are some doors that are closed to them because they may have a criminal background, they have poor work histories, and things like that. So we need to remove those barriers and help them succeed by achieving, professional careers and not just a job.
Thank you, Kimberly. Emily.
Hi, my name is Emily Martin, and I'm president of Ashinger Electric Company. We're a third-generation electrical contractor here in St. Louis, certified WBE-owned business, and proud to have done the electrical construction in this building. So I'm here because, along with Dr. Linda Little, who's the assistant director of our IBEW NECA Training Center, it's really important when we talk about how do we create sustainable wages for changing families that we include the skilled trades in those conversations. And I think so often barriers to coming into the construction field are, you don't know about it because a lot of people get into the construction field because their father, their brother, their uncle was a tradesperson, and so they just don't see that as a pathway for them. A second barrier is that, construction starts at a certain time, and is dependent upon everybody being there doing their part of the job. It's a very linear process, and some of the burdens that society places more on women than they do on men with regard to being primary family responsibility and childcare responsibilities. Those things can provide barriers to being able to have these careers seem like good places for us to be. But I mean, I can tell you in our trade, our apprentices are paid to go to school, so they come out with no debt. They're earning credits toward a associate degree at a community college. They are working while they are learning, so they're earning a wage for their family, which includes a pension, includes health insurance. These are family-changing careers, and when we only look at 50% of our population to fill these careers, we're missing a whole bunch of capable people. And technology has changed construction enormously, and the perception that it's an all brawn, no brain business is completely wrong. I mean, we have electricians that every day do most of their work with an infrared camera and a laptop. And there are not those barriers to entry that may have appeared to be there in the past. And in talking to Rung, we talked about how do we create a pathway to the trades as well as a pathway in other careers that might more naturally come to mind for women.
Thank you. Tangela, quick introduction and what barriers have you seen?
Well, my name is Tangela Williams. I am a member of Rung for Women. And right now in my career, I'm a teaching assistant with the Special School District of St. Louis County. And that's wonderful work, and I love what I do. But the biggest barrier there is we do not make very much money. And it's a very taxing and overwhelming job, and it's rewarding emotionally, but it's not exactly rewarding financially, which is what a lot of us are looking for. And I find that being here as part of Rung for Women, they are trying to give us resources to get to that next step of life where we all want to be. So we work with career services to discover pathways we can get to that next level. And I am currently looking into technology jobs with Launch Code, or there is also a geospatial analyst program that's going to be with Maryville University here in the city, and that's going to be starting soon, and that's really exciting. So I find that being here with Rung, it helps you get over those barriers and in a meaningful way. It doesn't feel like I'm just spinning my wheels anymore just to get nowhere. Because teaching assistant, it's kind of a one-stop shop. The only way up in that career is to become a teacher, which is fine, but right now in this climate, it is not always what people want to do, especially now after the pandemic and everything is so up in the air with it. So to find a more stable and secure and comfortable position for me and my family is what I'm aiming to do.
Thank you, Tangela. And so seated here to my left is Secretary Marty Walsh, and I also mentioned he's the former mayor of Boston, and so again, welcome, and we are so happy to have you. I told you in advance what I was going to ask you, but I want you to save that question because it'll be part of our reaction of response. But if you'd like to give us a few opening remarks, that's great.
Let me just real quickly thank you for being here. It's great to be here today. I want to thank everyone who came here today. What an impressive crowd of people. I was saying to Leslie a minute ago, a great crowd to be here for this conversation. I spent 7 years as mayor of Boston. Previously to that, I spent 16 years in the Massachusetts House of Representatives. And I also, a couple of years in between there, I ran the Boston Building Trades. And quite honestly, as I was a state representative, I took many votes in the House of Representatives for pay equity for women. And they were good votes. But when I became the mayor of Boston, it was time to work on closing that gap. I mean, you can only vote in legislation so many times to close the pay gap, and not happening. So one of the first things I did, and then the question that Leslie asked me is, can you explain what you did in Boston? So when I got elected mayor in Boston in 2014, we had an office called the Women's Commission. And it was a commission that was put together by the previous mayor, and it served its purpose, but we wanted to put more teeth in that office, and we kind of revamped the office. And the first person I appointed to that office was my former campaign manager, who ran my campaign for mayor of Boston, and we went in there and created the Office of Women's Advancement. and we started to talk about how do we advance women. And one of the things that was created before I got there was a Women's Workforce Council that was looking at pay equity and disparities in the workplace. And then we took that on, we took that council, we added more people to it, and we started talking to businesses, and we started to look internally. So we were talking to businesses, and we were able to get 250 of the largest employers in the city of Boston to give us data anonymously to be able to look at their pay scales. And the reason for that is that the report would then return to them and see that there was disparities there. Now, we all know the disparities are there, but seeing firsthand the disparities came from their data was something that was really important. And I started to see companies in Boston started to deal with disparities as far as pay equity. And then we also had a push to really think about how do we get more representation on boards, corporate boards across the city of Boston, and get more women in corporate boards, and more women as CEOs, and more women running organizations like your soccer club here. How do we do that? And you know, the business community bought into it. But as I said to Leslie in the other room, we also have to look at our own pay scale. And we have to look at where we are as a city, because I can't be out there advocating for better wages and higher wages and pay equity if in fact my departments have disparities. So we looked at most of the jobs in the city of Boston are unionized, but the management side of it, whether it's department heads or cabinet level positions or some of the appointments I have, we looked at that, and quite honestly, we made adjustments. We made adjustments in the process to make sure that we had a true pay equity scale in the city of Boston again. So we saw some gains, and we saw some movement there in a positive direction. The Women's Workforce Council is still moving forward. What we focused on really also was the pay equity amongst women of color. I'm preaching to the choir, obviously. You know, white men get paid more than everybody. White women get paid more than women of color, African American women, more than Latino women. And how do we make sure that it's a pay equity discrepancy that's quite honestly across the board in different ways? And so we did a lot of good work. I didn't do the work, we did the work. And I want to thank the mayor who's here today, because I mean, she's a model also for our country, the first African American mayor to serve in this city, which means she's one of the first African American mayors to serve as a female, as a mayor at all in the United States of America. And that's a big deal. And we got to continue to make those advancements and make those gains as we want to move forward. I'll get more into the Department of Labor in a minute, but it's such an honor to be here today. I jokingly said earlier I was on a radio show, and this is my first time in St. Louis. And when I was mayor of Boston, obviously as a mayor, when you win championships, you get to have parades and stuff like that. So I'm here to get my Stanley Cup that we lost.
Good luck. Good luck.
Game 7, I was there, broke my heart.
Dang it. All right, Dr. Little, please introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about the barriers you maybe have experienced in your career path.
Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Little. I'm an electrician, and I'm also the Assistant Director of the IBEW Local 1 NECA Apprenticeship Training Center. So I help oversee the curriculum for apprentices coming into the field. Some of the barriers that I've experienced, I don't really think I should mention, but they are real. And some of them haven't really changed over the years. Things have definitely gotten better, but it's a really kind of a rough environment. And I think a lot of women aren't really looking at that type of environment when they think of a job path. And being in the building trades is not really a job, it's a career. And I think a lot of women aren't aware that it is open to women. I got into the apprenticeship a long time ago, 1981. So it has been open to women for many, many years, but not that many women really express interest in it, because it is a different type of environment. Women are not used to, the way that the dressing, the physical labor. I think a lot of women don't think that they can do it, and that's wrong. They can do it. There is a lot of physical labor involved, and women are completely capable of doing that. I don't think women think that they have the STEM skills. Statistics say that even though STEM is pushed heavily in grade schools, that by the time it gets to high school, a lot of women don't go that route. And I don't know if it's a social stigma or for whatever reason, but women are completely capable of doing all of the math and all the calculations that are involved. I think that scares a lot of women away, that they feel like that they're not going to be able to do that. And so some of the barriers I've faced have included some of those things, but I was able to overcome them. Being in the building trades is an awesome career. How did I afford a PhD? It was because I worked in the building trades. I was able to get college credit. So you're not limited when you come in the building trades to just working that work day in and day out. If that's what you love and enjoy, that's awesome, but there are so many more opportunities. And not having a lot of mentors, I think, is also a barrier, because women don't realize, hey, I can do that. And women have to realize, if you can see it, you can be it. And I think that that's just something they don't see it. And all the things that Emily said too, you know, the having to get there at the crack of dawn, having to find a place to drop your child so that you can get to work on time, having to get called off the job because your children get sick. All those things are very real barriers, but I think a lot of it is just the impression starting off that this is something that I can do, and it is something you can do.
Thank you, Dr. Little. Christy, tell us a little bit about Christy.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. My name is Christy Miller. I work for Darty Business Solutions. I'm here representing Access Point. I'm one of the program managers for this program, which is an accelerated IT program, which provides apprenticeships for students that are in under-resourced areas, high school seniors specifically. They're working for Fortune 500 companies in software development. In my role, I support these students with intake, supportive services, which we call hypercare. We call it hypercare because it's a little bit more than just saying, you know, here's a bus ticket, get to school, get to work, right? We are creating the bridge that's going to walk them from graduating high school to working for a Fortune 500 company in less than 6 months. Wow. They're getting credit programs from St. Louis Community College, and we're creating the bridge to four-year universities with UMSL included. And my background, this is, we'll make this a little personal. I actually grew up in Ferguson. I actually serve now on the board for the Salvation Army Ferguson Empowerment Center. And this is my life's work. I worked for, I see Carolyn Seward here, Better for Me Life for many, many years as community outreach coordinator in the youth department. And my development came from someone else giving me opportunity. That's what Access Point is. Someone's going to find you, you're under-resourced, you have a school that doesn't have the opportunities. The disparities in these schools, they don't all have the same opportunities. If we go to St. Louis Public Schools versus, you know, somewhere in maybe West County, for example, with more tax dollars for their schools, they're not going to have the same opportunities. So we're finding them. We're creating partnerships with the superintendents and going into the high schools and starting from there. We're, you know, some of these students, they're first-time college graduates, first-time high school graduates. And so the partnership has to be all the way down to the parent, to the student, to the Fortune 500 company, to the university, and walking them through from point A to point B. And that's what Access Point is.
Thank you, Christy. Andrea Pruitt, tell us about your experience at Launch Code and what barriers are you now experiencing just 2 weeks in to your new role?
Well, my name is Andrea Pruitt, and I'm currently a software developer over at Hussman here in St. Louis, Missouri. And I just literally completed Launch Code. And as she stated, I'm 2 weeks in. So I am definitely one of those women that they are speaking of. My barriers is definitely childcare. The pandemic has definitely impacted families. You know, with my child, both of my kids being at home and doing distant learning and things like that, it makes things difficult. And right now, support is everything. Support is everything. Having a mentor, having someone to give you guidance, giving you the advice on what to do, you know, how to do things, that does a lot for women like me. So, yeah.
Thank you. So, Mr. Secretary, we just heard about the barriers that women experience in the workplace. I'd love to have you tell us a little bit about what the Department of Labor is doing to respond, right? So we heard family care is an issue. We heard pay equity as an issue. What sort of policies is the Biden administration looking at and the Department of Labor to make our work environments better for women?
No, thank you. You know, historically, the Department of Labor, the function of the Department of Labor is workforce protection, labor, employee protection, wage and hour division, job training. I was at St. Louis Job Corps a little while ago today. More opportunities training for young people, mine safety, pension safety, all of those different pieces. And probably the biggest area that the opportunity, Women's Bureau, by the way, we have a Women's Bureau as well, severely understaffed, that I was able to allocate some more money in this year's budget to build that office up, and we have to get that office bigger. There's 40 employees nationwide in that office. That's just not going to do it. So we have to do more, and I'm literally 3.5 months into my job, so I'm getting there. But I'll be honest with you, you know, President Biden and Vice President Harris, why am I in St. Louis today? I'm in St. Louis today for a number of reasons. I ended up here today primarily because I think of Mayor Steve Benjamin, Columbia, South Carolina, that recommended, he knew I was coming to St. Louis, and he was here last week. But there's an opportunity unlike any other opportunity that we've seen in the last 50 years in the United States of America right now. We have a president and a vice president who are making major investments in infrastructure in America. That infrastructure is in physical infrastructure, roads and bridges, broadband access. We all saw the digital divide this year. Most of us seen it. Even though some cities like St. Louis and Boston have internet service, there are neighborhoods in our communities that didn't have it, didn't have connectivity. We had young people going home, expect them to learn on a computer on Zoom, and they don't have Wi-Fi. It's unbeknownst, you know, we provide them with hotspots and things like that, but still that gap. We have too many areas in this country drinking water out of lead pipes. 400,000 buildings in this country have lead pipes leading to them. So again, that's the physical infrastructure side of it. What I'm excited about, really, honestly, as a former mayor, is the human infrastructure side of the CARES economy. When you think about this, the investments that the president has put forth. The president talks about Build Back Better, and what he means by that is building America to be successful in the second quarter and the rest of the 21st century. In that CARES economy package, there's money in there for childcare. There's money in there for universal pre-kindergarten. There's money in there for free community college. There's money in there for job training. And when you think about those investments are in the industries that are important to us, but it's also in industries that are predominantly workers of women workers, women of color, and immigrants who are severely underpaid, who we are tasking the responsibility of taking care of our kids in child care and taking care of our adult parents, grandparents in adult care. And that money, that investment the president wants to do is investing in how do we improve those industries and how do we also build back opportunities for pathways into the middle class. In the job training side, you heard here at the table today from everybody about the opportunities. Everybody at this table has a skill or a trade they're in or they're working in that we need to make more investments in and be real intentional about making sure that we create opportunities for women and women of color, and people of color, quite honestly, but women and women of color to get into those industries. As Linda said about the construction industry, I come out of the construction industry. There is no reason why any woman in America that wants to be part of that industry can't get in that industry, because you heard from Emily, the industry is completely different now. It's a technical industry, and so we have so many opportunities with these two plans as we move forward here. I was meeting at the White House yesterday with the president, the vice president was there, three governors from around the country, and 5 mayors. And one of the governors was Republican, one of the mayors was Republican, and we're talking about this infrastructure bill. And every single one of them was excited about the physical infrastructure, but more importantly, the human infrastructure. So the work that you're doing as individual organizations in this room, and the work that you're doing as this organization, and the work that you're doing in different fields, now is the time. Now is the time to really put pressure to make sure that we pass these pieces of legislation and pass this investment. This isn't money going into programs. This is an investment in the future of our country. And there's equity language inside of these packages that is real equity language to close those divides. The mayor of this city is the first woman to be an African-American woman in this city. We have an opportunity not to wait for the length of when the city was founded to make that happen, but we have an opportunity to make investments right now. And to have the program Rung for Women, who've already laid down the foundation, and thank you for founding it, and thank you for creating it, because this is the best opportunity we have moving forward. This isn't words I'm saying. I believe in this work. And I think about the opportunity. As mayor of Boston, and as a mayor, we go to bed every night and we think about how do we create pathways for our community. As mayors, we go to a place like Job Corps and we talk to young people and we see that they might have messed up in their life a little bit and now they have an opportunity for a second chance. As mayors, we know that we have a city full of people that are looking for opportunities for a second chance. As mayors, we know there's a ton of people in the city that are women that want to go back to the workforce, but they're afraid of where they put their kids. They're afraid of where their kids go to school. They're afraid of what are the opportunities and challenges for the young people. I'll end with this, and then we'll go into a conversation. 16 months ago, the pandemic began. And my job as mayor of Boston back then, and the mayor's job here, was to make sure that the constituents and the people who live in our city were safe. We need to make sure that people had PPE. We need to make sure that people were physically distancing and washing hands with soap and warm water. We need to make sure people were masked. We need to make sure that our small businesses were operating and takeout. They were able to survive, the ones that could. We had lots of challenges that we had to move ahead. What I didn't realize in the beginning of this pandemic was that 4 million women were going to leave the workforce.
Yep.
What I didn't realize as the pandemic went on, as we started to get towards the, I wouldn't say the end of the pandemic because we're still in it, that these women left the workforce for various reasons. Many of those reasons were childcare. Many of those reasons were making sure that their adult parent or grandparent that they were taking care of, they were the primary person that took care of them. That was the reason they left the workforce. They didn't leave the workforce because they got an extra $300 on unemployment benefits. They left the workforce because they, quite honestly, they were concerned about their personal health and their family's health. As we fast forward, as of the last jobs numbers, which was 2 weeks ago, 2.2 million of those women have returned back to the workforce, at least the stats we have, and 1.8 million women still have not returned to the workforce. Leslie read a stat. The stat in Boston, if I get it correctly, is 51% of the households in the city of Boston are led by women. They're the primary breadwinner in that home. If you take 1.8 million women out of the workforce, that will create economic challenges for the entire United States of America, for these large corporations, these small corporations. So if we want to really think about how do we make sure we continue to move our economy forward, we should spend less time talking about the extra benefit for unemployment and more time talking about how do we make sure we ensure women get back into the workforce.
I want to ask Emily, like, build back better, right?
Right.
What, if we could close some of these gaps, what would that mean for your business?
Oh, and those are huge opportunities for our business. I mean, I think one of the things that, we're going to struggle with in achieving these goals and replacing our infrastructure is the people to actually do the work. And so if we don't address the half of the population that we're not typically talking to when we talk about trade jobs, we will never be able to achieve the infrastructure that frankly our country needs in order to survive. We will never be able, we do a lot of solar work, which is very close to my heart, and we will not be able to have the workforce that is necessary to, to really impact our climate change emergency if we don't have that skilled workforce that's ready to go forward. So those are going to be huge for us. But with regard to, the conversation about child care and family care and universal pre-K, which is what I sent the mayor on the suggestions of what to do with some of the CARES Act money, those are real things that are necessary in order to allow those women to reenter the workforce. I sit on a lot of groups and 99% of the people that I'm interacting with are male business owners, and we've had these conversations about hard to find people, can't find people to take these jobs, et cetera. Well, part of it is wage-based. And the other part of it is that until we solve those childcare issues, we cannot expect this part of the population to be able to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, so for Andrea and Tangela, if you had a crystal ball and we could solve the childcare issue, what would that look like for you all?
Oh, man.
What practically, what does it look like? How would you show up? What would you have available to you? Because we have the Secretary of Labor sitting here, and he can go back and talk to his colleagues about some solutions. I don't want to just raise problems. I do want to talk about solutions.
Absolutely. Did you want to?
Sure, okay. Thank you. So for me personally, if I knew that I could go to work for 10, 12, 16 hours a day and not have to worry about what my son was doing at home, that is a big relief. Just for me personally, probably for you too, I'm sure. To know that my son has safe activities to be doing instead of just out in the streets doing goodness knows what. So my son is 16, and he's very close to being out in the workforce on his own as well. I need to serve as a positive example for him. Instead of just sitting at home and waiting for something to happen, I need to be out actively looking for a career, finding a career that's moving us forward for him to see, oh, this is what I need to be doing. So in my mind, I need to be able to be that good model for him, and having that childcare piece is taking a lot of anxiety out of my mind so I can go forward and do what I need to do.
I agree 100% of what you said.
And with that, is that additional programs? Because the mayor's sitting here too.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about, out of school and after school, but
Yeah.
what explicitly do you need?
Definitely the childcare.
Okay.
The childcare, it really brings up a lot of problems. Because, if I have to be at work at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I can't leave until about 5:30, 6 o'clock, where my child is going to go. And not all, I'm blessed enough to have a spouse, but not all houses have two parents in the house, so that makes, a big thing. Childcare is everything, for sure.
I think one thing that benefits me, and quite honestly, the president, the mayor touched upon this, was the fact that I served as a mayor. Secretary Buttigieg in transportation served as a mayor. Secretary Fudge in housing served as a mayor and congresswoman. Secretary Raimondo served as a governor. Secretary Granholm served as a governor. Secretary Barrera served as Attorney General. And the reason I say that is because, quite honestly, it's going to be on the local level. What the federal government does, and what we do with these two packages, it's about $3.4 trillion complete package right now. Ultimately, it's going to go down to the local level. And having good, strong organizations working with good, strong leadership in a city is going to be key to making sure you have that pathway. So when you think about when I think about childcare and universal pre-kindergarten, I think about what's available from the ages of 0 to 3 for families and mothers that want to go into the workforce, and what's the high-quality childcare that's available for them. We brought universal pre-kindergarten to Boston. When I became mayor, we launched it, and we're still staffing up on it. But having that opportunity to go from childcare to pre-kindergarten, another one to free up the parents to be able to have their kids learning. But the key also is, and for the educators in the room, the biggest part, I think, of universal pre-kindergarten and childcare isn't the fact that you have a place to put your kids all day. It's that the studies show that if you get young people into high-quality kindergarten at 3 years old, the outcomes for their life are so much different.
Yes.
The outcome for high school graduation, potentially college, or a trade. And I think that, we think about, we spend a lot of time talking about crime in America and how we combat gun violence. The way we combat gun violence, I've said it for a long time, is by creating opportunities and pathways so that in the next 10 years, we're not talking about re-entry programs. We're actually talking about how do we create more opportunities through job training, and that's because of the foundation and the investment in education that we should be making right now, and that we will be making when these two bills pass.
Can I say something really quick?
Sure.
Speaking of what you were saying, programs is another thing too. You know, it's not many programs that the little guys and gals can, you know, do these days. Like, probably want to do cheerleading, or, you know, the fundings for these programs are very low. So, and then especially if you have a parent that A, probably don't have the resources, or B, the job don't pay enough, but they would love for their kids to be in those type of programs, you know, to learn and probably learn, you know, or play a sport, you know, anything like that.
So we're coming on the heels of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Trauma is real, and isolation for lots of women was real. Kim, can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing? I know that, you know, addiction and
Absolutely.
is up, but what solutions are out there to help manage some of the trauma that families are experiencing?
So first of all, just removing the stigma. So people have been unafraid to say, I need help, I'm overwhelmed. And so removing the stigma so that people understand that mental health is wealth. If you don't have your mind, you know, you're not closed in your right mind, you don't feel good, it's going to impact your children, it'll impact how you work, all of that. So first of all, removing the stigma and creating better access. So if we don't have Medicaid and our insurance and ways for people to seek competent professionals, because in addiction treatment, we do use peer support as encouragers and motivators and helping people to, you know, come to treatment, but you need qualified master's level or higher trained therapists to deal with the trauma and the stress that folks are facing. And like I said, social service providers, we know coming in, this is hard work, not pocket work, because we don't get paid like that. So just valuing that, because everybody has a brain, everybody goes through stress. So if you really want quality mental health services, I think we need to put value in that. And then we need to remove the stigma. Jobs should say, okay, see the EAP. It's okay, go. I went to the therapist last week. It should just be normal. We need to normalize it.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't want to leave Dr. Little and Christy out of the conversation, but you both are in the apprenticeship space and providing access to opportunity. And for women, we know that there hasn't been enough role models or models of those types of career pathways. So if you had a crystal ball, what would your solution be for getting more women into these trades, technology and trades pathways? How would we do it?
Actually, I don't mind starting. One of the things that I would love to see as we're having these conversations with the school districts is having that skill-based training starting early. These students are playing Minecraft, Roblox, all these games on their computers. They don't know what they're doing. They're coding.
Yeah. Yep.
And these are jobs that can provide well-paying, life-changing jobs for their families. So those early childhood programs that lead into them going into high school, into secondary education, and furthering their career paths is great. And then having mentors that look like them in those career paths that can provide mentorship and guide them throughout that process is amazing, and it's life-changing. I have, not only am I the program manager, but I'm actually the mentor for 3 of the students.
Nice.
And they know that they can reach me 24/7. Text me, call me, whatever. I've done home visits, whatever it takes. And that's not even really something that we do. We're corporate, you know, but that's embedded in me, you know. So I told them, you know, whatever you need, I don't care if you're hungry, I will take you to get a meal. And I think that sometimes it's just having someone that they can look up to that looks like them, that provides just hope and opportunity. And that's amazing. It's life-changing.
Dr. Little, your crystal ball, what would your solution be?
Well, again, I do agree with the mentorship.
Yeah.
I think maybe approaching women in high school or earlier and letting them know the trades are okay. The trades are a good place to start. You don't have to finish with the trades. You can start with the trades, and you can learn what you need to know and maintain an adequate income that you can use that to blossom into whatever career path you choose, be it part of the trades or not. but it's a good stepping stone, and it's also a good career. So I think if more women understood that, and I think what that's going to take is more counselors at the high school level encouraging not just men, but women, and not just for college. It seems like a lot of the high schools want to gear, oh, we're college prep, we're college prep, we're college prep. Counselors need to understand that a trade could be a college prep.
Yep.
Yeah, well, here at Rung, we talk a lot about middle skill jobs, and those are opportunities where women don't need a college degree. And so I totally concur, Dr. Little, that more access and being able to see people who look like you in those fields is incredibly important. So, Mr. Secretary, we are nearing the end of our conversation, and you have a room full of men and women, but primarily women. And I just would say, you know, you're here from Washington, and you're obviously at a really pivotal point in what's happening in this country, and you're leading a really pivotal organization that can help us move forward. What would your call to action be for each of us?
Yeah.
What can we do to help you?
No, thank you. First and foremost, thank you for having me today. And as I sit here, I think about my last 2 months. And there's a room in Memphis, Tennessee having the same conversation. There's a room in Madison, Wisconsin having the same conversation. There's a room in Indiana having the same conversation. There's a room in California having the same conversation. I've spent the last 2 months going around the country having these conversations. And I think first and foremost, the energy that's in this room is good. And the energy of the programming in this room is good. And continue to push forward. I would say to you that if you've been doing this work for a long time and you feel like you haven't made any advances, you have. Because we have an opportunity in 2021. We have a president of the United States of America that believes in equity. We have a president of the United States of America that believes in advancement. We have a president of the United States of America that has sat in a room with Republicans and Democrats and came out with an agreement on a bipartisan infrastructure bill. We have a vice president, the first woman ever in the history of this country to hold that position, that has gone through local government, that has gone through statewide government, that understands the importance, why it is to advocate for girls and women. In the conversations that every time I've been in one with both the president and the vice president has been around the opportunity in front of us. We have such an incredible opportunity with a $3.4 trillion investment in people. Everything that was talked about today is in that bill. Job training is in that bill. Workforce development is in that bill. Apprenticeships is in that bill. Clean energy and and electric grids and solar panels is in that bill. Child care is in that bill. Universal pre-kindergarten is in that bill. Skilling up to go into a different field is in that bill. You think about it. We have this moment in time. The last time we were at this kind of inflection point as a country, in my opinion, was during the New Deal. When we created the systems, the support systems that have been in this country. So I would say to you that help is on the way.
Yes.
But that help doesn't mean anything unless you continue to do the work you do. So keep doing the work. Keep pushing ahead. Keep working with the mayor. Keep working with the elected officials in here, and the county officials and the city councilors. Keep working with organizations like this. Because when we come back here in a couple of years, we want to talk about the success stories that we have. And we still have racism and systemic racism and disparities that we have to deal with. And the way we do that is a day at a time.
Yep.
One day at a time. We'll continue to build a society that works for everyone. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I am truly honored to be in this room today with all of you. When I walked in this morning, I didn't expect to have the feeling I have in my body. I knew we were going to have a roundtable conversation, but I didn't expect to have the feeling I do leaving this room. And I promise you, when I go back to Washington, we're going to continue to push.
Yeah,